Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our guests. Today I would like to do something that probably none of you have ever done before. And it involves what I will call the F word. Today I would like all of you to connect with your inner feminist. Now I know that F word may conjure up all sorts of distasteful images: angry, man-hating women, burning bras, hairy armpits. But I would like to say that for the purpose of this speech, and what I truly believe, is that those are myths about feminism. And I would like for you to disregard any preconceived notions that you may have about feminism for the next 8 to 10 minutes of my speech. Now you may be wondering, why in the world would Kate choose to take up this challenge for her number 10 speech here at Toastmasters? The reason is very straightforward. On Saturday, March 3rd, my organization, the Women's International Perspective, is having our International Women's Day event, and I would like for all of you to attend. I would like for you to come as women, as men, as husbands and partners, as brothers, as fathers, because what I believe you will see by the end of this speech is that equality among the sexes is not only critical for women, but it's critical for the very survival of our culture and our society. I'd like to begin with some of the facts. For the purpose of this speech, I've chosen 3 areas that are of interest to me and that are of interest to the speakers who will be joining us on Saturday the 3rd. And that is women in politics, women in the media, and women in business. Where are the women in U.S. politics? Men represent 88% of U.S. governors, 73.4% of U.S. House of Representatives, 83% of our senators, 78.4% of our state legislators, 82.5% of the mayors in this country. So how do we stack up against other countries? The United States ranks 72nd in the world when it comes to women's political participation. We lag behind countries that are far less developed than the United States, such as Cuba, Iraq, and Rwanda. There are countries that fare much better. Nordic countries such as Norway, Sweden, and Finland, women hold 46.1% of parliamentary positions. In the media, we're not doing much better. Women own only 6% of the commercial broadcast and television stations around the country. Fortune 500 media companies have only 15% of their executives that are women, and only 12% of their board members. While women have made gains as news anchors and actually represent slightly over than 50% of news anchors for local news, only 28% of the news directors and 16% of the general managers at TV stations that air local news are women. Broadcast news Sunday morning public policy programs are notoriously bad in this area. All 4 of our broadcast networks' public affairs programs on Sundays are hosted by men, and male guests outnumber female guests by 4 to 1. When it comes to programming for our children, male characters outnumber female characters by twice as many. And in animated shows, it's particularly bad, where most of the characters are more likely to be men. There's a wonderful quote by Couric that I think sums up why this is so important. In the recent film called Misrepresentation, she said, "The media can be an instrument of change. It can maintain the status quo and reflect the views of society, or it can, hopefully, awaken people and change minds." She then added, "I think it all depends on who's piloting the plane." Media can be a tremendous force for change, like Couric said. But unfortunately, media often only represents the narrow depiction of what is determined is important in this country. Take, for example, Meet the Press, one of those Sunday morning public affairs programs. Meet the Press is highly influential. It undoubtedly influences the news cycle for the coming week, as well as public policy and public discourse about the issues that they determine matter most. I used to watch Meet the Press every Sunday, but I stopped in December because I found on cable news programs I could get far more diversity and representation on other programs than on the top 4 networks. I stopped after on December 11th, Meet the Press had 7 men as guests and 1 woman. The previous Sunday on the 4th, they had 5 guests and 1 woman. One that was a woman, 5 men and 1 woman. On November 26th, they had 6 men and 1 woman. And on November 19th, 5 men and 1 woman. You get the picture. As the editor of the Whip, I found that the stories the women publish on our website rarely get mainstream media coverage. And therefore, the public doesn't determine those stories necessarily as important, and they don't become part of our national conversation. Also important is business. In business, women also lag behind men. We are not represented as CEOs, as executives, or on corporate boards in the same number. In fact, only a mere 16.1% of women are on corporate boards in the Fortune 500 companies in this country. Most of you have Facebook accounts. Many people, 800 million users, have Facebook accounts in this country and around the world, 58% of which are women, who, by the way, are more often the ones commenting and making status updates than the men. But you wouldn't know this by looking at Facebook's 7 directors on their board, all of which are women. I think it would be a good business practice for Mark Zuckerberg, the 27-year-old founder of Facebook, to ask himself, how does he plan to achieve his social mission, which is to make the world more open and connected, and to give everyone a voice, and to help transform society for the future, when 51% of that society is not represented in his corporate board. Marian Wright Edelman, the founder and president of the Children's Defense Fund, has a wonderful quote. She says, "You can't be what you can't see." Women's low representation in the media, in politics, and in business unfortunately influences what women and girls perceive is possible for themselves. And it makes it particularly difficult for the average woman to feel empowered herself to become a leader. There's a wonderful quote by one of our speakers who's actually going to be there on March 3rd. Her name is Caroline Heldman, and she talks about how when girls and boys are in kindergarten, both would like to become president of the United States in equal numbers. Yet, by the time they're 15 years old, a massive gap emerges. And she calls that gap gendered socialization, where politics are considered to be for men, leadership is considered to be a masculine pursuit, and women are discouraged from pursuing ambitious positions. Now, I hope that you all see at this point in my speech that feminism is not just an ideology for women. It's not just a pursuit that should be had by women. When I created the Whip, it was never to benefit only women. It was to benefit all of humanity. Because a society that is equal is not only going to benefit women, it's going to benefit all of us. So, in case I haven't convinced you yet that Saturday, March 3rd, from 4 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. is where you want to be on March 3rd at MPC, I would like for you to close your eyes. I would like for you to think about the gravest issue of the day that you can think of. Now ask yourself, would this issue be made better or worse if we allowed men and women to collaborate on the solution? If your answer is yes, I hope you will join us. Thank you.